Welcome in to the Sweet Tea and the SEC show. I am your host, Chris. You can find me on Twitter at CFB Talk 07. I'm also joined by none other than Adam at CFB Guy on Twitter. Also, huge thanks to him for putting his podcast right under his name so I can remember it. The host of the weekly Walk On podcast, which you can find on Spotify, you can find on iHeartRadio or iHeart Music, whatever it's called. Is it iHeart Radio?
iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, basically anything you search the weekly Walk On, it'll come up. Most providers.
And it is a great show, guys. A great show. It is very unique and different than what we do. As in we just talk football, but Adam has a cool podcast called The Weekly Walk On, where he talks the inner workings of athletics and interviews different people. And it's really unique. It's really cool. His guests are usually pretty cool, except that one time he had me on, but he was lacking in finding a guest, so he had to have me on. But anyway, all right, let's jump into it.
And I will say, start with season 3 and work your way to season 1. Because I'll be honest, the content was still good early on, but I had no idea what the heck I was doing. And the production quality is not the best in season 1. So I would highly recommend starting in season 3.
It has gotten, which it was good already, but it has gotten better and better as each show gone. Hopefully that's what we're doing too here at CFB Season channel. All right, let's jump into it, man. I know this is probably getting tiresome talking, but it is the news of the day. It is the news of the probably for the next several weeks. Lane Kiffen. I don't know how much you've paid attention, Adam, to the stuff. It's kind of hard not to pay attention if you're on Twitter.
I try to avoid it and I can't.
You can't even on your own show on this one.
I don't really care until he signs a contract or makes an official announcement, but that's typical Lane Kiffen. He's trying to make more attention about things with him than what he needs to.
I was hoping that's what you were gonna say, because man. Just to give an update for anybody that's not living on social media and has no clue what's going on. Apparently Friday night, I think, or Saturday, I'm sorry. I don't the days are running. Lane Kiffin's family went down to Gainesville, visited Gainesville, looked at neighborhoods, talked to UF, I think. And then also they got on a flight, headed to Baton Rouge, also talked to people at Baton Rouge, toured some neighborhoods, looked at some schools. So it looks like it is going to be a 3-team race. LSU, staying at Ole Miss, or going to Florida. He also appeared on the Pat McAfee show today, which was obviously a pre-recorded conversation. Nothing to glean from that. I watched a little bit of it, but absolutely zero from that conversation. Other than he did refute a report, which I don't believe him, to be honest, that Ole Miss has gave him an ultimatum to make a decision. What that means, I have no clue, because I don't know what Ole Miss. I don't even know what that entails.
So supposedly he had to sign an extension, agree to stay at Ole Miss before the CFP started, and he would be suspended with pay for cause, which if it gets to, if one, if that's even true, and two, if it gets to that, why would you not call their bluff if you're Lane Kiffin?
I know.
You're the head coach of the football team. You're in the first playoff since it's expanded not to 12 teams, since there's been a playoff at all. Since it's gone to 4 teams from the BCS. You were never in the BCS. Like, why would you do that to your coach? I get why Ole Miss wants a decision, but I also don't know if that's true because I haven't seen any reports come from actual Ole Miss. I think Pete Thamel reported along with a few others that are very reputable people, but you know, it doesn't make sense to me.
I will say, I have browsed sorry, my TV's not on mute. I have went and looked at the Ole Miss websites. There is 2 beat writers on the Ole Miss side of things that are reporting that Ole Miss is giving him an ultimatum. But I don't. I get what Ole Miss is doing. I get it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I probably would do it too, depending, because it's really just a sucky situation altogether. I want to say this though. I feel bad for Ole Miss fans. I feel bad for Ole Miss players. They're in the middle of a very historic run in their program's history. In a season, which I'll get to later when we recap Florida Ole Miss, in a season where most people had them winning only 8 games, and they're about to go possibly 11-1 in the playoffs. And so it just sucks for them. It sucks all around. But I don't know. It just seems it seems like if this keeps going the way it's going, if Lane keeps doing what Lane always does, it seems like this thing may get too toxic. And maybe his choice will be made for him.
Yeah, I could see that happening, and this could be their best season since the last few years have been pretty good. This has been their best stretch, 23-24, and you throw 25 in there. It's been their best stretch more than just 1 year since 1957 to 1962. 57, they went 9-1-1. They went 9-2 in 58, 10-1, 10-0-1, 9-2, 10-0, and then it drops off after that, and back to your 7-1-2, 5-5, 7-4, 8-3. So they are on a historic 3-year run that hasn't been seen at Ole Miss since the late 50s, early 60s, and of course, Ole Miss wants to keep him. He's a good coach and great offensive mind. I think he's finally got a defensive staff there because I felt like other places he's been, that's kind of been his knock, was he could score points, but he couldn't always stop the other team. And I personally, it's great. It's great for Ole Miss. I feel like Florida and LSU can both hire other coaches. Florida will see if they're successful because they haven't really had a successful coach. Mullen was successful, but got pushed out because he wasn't successful enough. Meyer did not pretty good. Meyer did great there, winning 2 national championships. And I think LSU had their last 3 coaches before Brian Kelly have all won national championships there. So I think both coaches will be successful, and I don't know if Ole Miss will they stay there and up there, because sometimes when that coach leaves, that's gotten them back up to a status that's been a long time, it drops right back off quick.
And I think that's why Ole Miss is doing what it's doing, because look, I mean, a lot of these jobs are fixing to wrap up. Like Arkansas is probably going to wrap up in the next couple of weeks. Auburn is on a timeline that's being reported that they're going to have something done by Iron Bowl, at the end of the Iron Bowl. And you got to, Virginia Tech's already done. The first domino's already fallen. And so they're if they're going to be in a coaching search, they're way behind the 8 ball right now. And I do know it's been reported that their target would be who's Auburn's target is, John Summerall. Now, who John Summerall will decide, I don't know. But if that's who they're wanting to go after, if that in their mind is like, if he leaves, this is who we want to go after. I feel like you better figure it out because Auburn's got a head start and they want John Summerall too. I feel like the admin needs to leave him alone and let the guy coach. To me, the admin is the biggest distraction doing this one, if you ask me. I mean, that's a great. I think is that our guy Sean? I think that's our guy Sean. If that is Sean, tell us, Sean.
I see both sides of it. I
do too. That's my
you need to let him coach. You need to not distract, but he's distracting himself a little bit by sending family to LSU, to Baton Rouge and to Gainesville. And he also the admin doesn't want to be behind the 8 ball, like you said, because there are so many jobs open that they're going to be way behind making it higher because all these other schools are out of playoff contention and they're making moves as we speak. And their Ole Miss is trying to make a move as soon as possible without disrupting the season. And man, that's a fine line to walk.
It is. And look, it's just, I agree with you. And then we'll move on because like I told TikTok and I'm telling Twitter and YouTube, we've got a great show at 9:00 called The Coach's Corner. I'm sure those guys are going to dig really deep into that conversation. So I don't want us to spend too much time on it. But I will end it on this. I do agree with you, Adam. Lane's causing some of this distraction too with the way he's acted. I think Lane has changed a lot. His image has gotten a lot better. But some things just don't change. He is still a full control. Look, he's still the little Twitter messages, the little shots at the fans after the Florida game, talking about the attendance against Citadel. Lane, I just want to let you know, buddy, Georgia doesn't have a sellout stadium when we play Charlotte or the Citadel either, brother. And I don't know if you've seen an LSU stadium last week against Arkansas, but it wasn't like completely sold out from what I remember seeing on TV. So I don't know. He's a distraction too, but I do agree with you and Sean that, the admin it's just a big, huge distraction. But anyway,
do you think he's going to stay or do you think he's going?
I was just going to ask you that. Today, I think he's leaving. Because if this continues, my thinking is this is going to get a little too toxic. Feelings are going to get hurt. It already sounds like Ole Miss administration is pretty freaking frustrated and getting ticked off. Because you got to remember, this is the second time they're dealing with this. This happened when he was fixing to take the Auburn job, and they lost the Egg Bowl, and that was a big distraction.
I don't feel like the Auburn – I feel like the Auburn one got shut down a lot faster, and that one wasn't as – there wasn't as big of a media storm around it, and there weren't as many blurred lines. It was pretty clear cut. No, I'm not taking the Auburn job. This one, there are so many blurred lines, and right now, I think he stays. I think he's in typical Lane Kiffen fashion, throwing up all kinds of smokes and mirrors, and that's why he sent people to Baton Rouge and to Gainesville to do all this and then to pull the wild card out of his hat and say, nope, I'm going to stay and get a huge contract out of it, and trying to make the administration nervous. Now, what he needs to not do is piss the administration off to where they would be happy to see him go at some point.
I will say this. I saw a report today, right before we came on the air, on the Ole Miss by an Ole Miss beat writer. Apparently the way it was framed is family is kind of leaning Florida. LSU's reputation. I mean LSU. Kiffin's agents and and the guys that represent them.
Representation.
Yeah, they're pushing him to LSU. They think LSU's the better job. They think that's where. And if you remember, his agent is Sexton. Who is the last big guy that got a job at LSU? Was Sexton's guy, Nick Saban. So yeah, that's kind of where it's. But anyway, I don't know. If you ask me today, I think he is gone. I think he goes to Florida. If you ask me tomorrow, I may say he's staying because that's just how unpredictable Lane Kiffen is. Alex says, I want to see his daughter transfer to LSU. Yeah. Hey, and we gotta add in the fact. I don't think this will be a deciding factor, but his daughter is dating dating one of the guys on the team. So I don't know. We'll see.
One of the Wicks brothers, right?
Yeah, one of the Witt brothers. Yep. All right, let's talk about it. UGA 35, Texas 10. I'm not gonna put my Homer hat on tonight. Adam already seen that. He got on to me for saying we. I got called in the moment. But yeah. Man, it feels like I'm gonna let you talk some on this game too, because I hate I'm wearing my Georgia jacket. So I'm probably gonna sound like a homer, but it does feel like to me UGA's peaking at the right time. When I was watching that game, man, what a game for Georgia. And I want to say this, Adam. I want to get your take on this. Gunnar Stockton, and I don't think I'm being a homer when I say this. To me, should be getting some more Heisman love. I don't think he should be number 1 or even number 2. I do think he should be 3 or 4. I went and looked it up. Versus the 3 top 25 teams they faced this year, Adam, he is 73 for 91, 822 yards, 10 touchdowns, 1 interception. That was against Tennessee, which is a fringe top 25 team, Ole Miss, and Texas. What is your take on my Gunner needs to get more Heisman love? Again, I don't think he should be number 1, and I don't even think he should be number 2. But I've seen a lot of lists come out that he's like at 10th or 11th or 9th. You know, I think he should be 3 or 4.
You know, I feel like Georgia as a whole has kind of been flying under the radar. I'm looking at USA Today right now, and they got them in the 5th spot at plus 2,500. Behind Diego Pavia, Marcel Reed, Julian Sayin, and then Fernando Mendoza is their favorite right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think Georgia's a little bit of a victim of their own success.
Yeah.
With how great they were in 21 and 22. They had a very good team in 23. They just couldn't beat Bama. For my money, they were probably most talented. They were probably one of the top 4 teams, but couldn't get into the playoff because their resume wasn't what they lost head-to-head to Bama, and the other teams were undefeated. And I think a 12-team playoff, they would have been somebody that you didn't want to see. So I think they're just kind of moving along under the radar, not getting much love because of an early loss to Bama. And I agree, they are peaking at the right time. I think maybe you're looking at things through the lens of with your Georgia glasses on a little bit and thinking maybe he's not getting enough love. I feel like he's getting some, and I feel like it's probably about right. You know, for him to be 5th, that's depending on the amount of votes, that's borderline going to New York. On one website, another website I saw had him at 7th. So I would say top 10. I don't know if I would put him top 5, but I think he's right around that 5 spot, 4 to 7, somewhere in there. And that's kind of what I'm seeing. He's starting to play a lot better. So if he continues to do this and has a huge game against Georgia Tech in a couple weeks, I could see him being right in the top 3.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to follow, especially with the Georgia Tech being on a Friday game, and then depending on how the weekends go, possibly in Atlanta. But you'll need Aggies to lose, which is possible. Kirby, go ahead.
He's going to have a huge game against Charlotte. He's probably only going to play 3 quarters though.
Yeah, probably only 3 quarters.
But maybe not a huge game, because I might be running the ball like crazy. But he will have very good numbers. Great completion percentage, all that, and very efficient. Maybe not huge numbers because they don't throw the ball much, but he'll be very efficient.
Yeah, definitely. Man, that was the most aggressive I've ever seen Kirby at UGA. I think there was a number on the TV show on the game where they said that was Kirby's first attempt at an onside kick. How freaking ballsy was that man the other night, dude? With it, and not only that, the 4th and 1 in its own territory.
I didn't get to see much of that game. I watched a lot of the first half. I didn't see the onside kick. I still haven't seen a replay of it. I looked, but just So I had a lot of stuff going on this weekend where I didn't search for it enough. But the parts of the game I saw, and again, talking to my buddy, a season ticket holder there, he was so pumped about it. He goes, Georgia's looking great. And I was looking at the box score and everything and yards and all that. I said, they are looking good. I said, but, he started talking about Manning. Manning's terrible. Man, I was like, well, when you go back and look at their wins and look at their losses, when they have a rushing game, Texas does decent on offense. I don't know. Manning's not living up to the hype, but he's also getting absolutely no help. So I think if you look at the box score, I forget what it was now, but I think they rushed for under 30 yards as a team.
Yeah.
And that is continually what it has been when Texas struggles on offense. Let's see. Yeah, they rushed as a team for 23 yards.
Yeah.
And they were behind a lot of the games, so they were trying to play catch up and throwing the ball a lot that way.
Yeah.
But still, when Arch Manning has to sit in the pocket and make plays, I don't think his receivers are quite good enough to win one-on-one battles. Their offensive line is not good enough to protect him or open holes against the better teams. And Georgia, as you said, is peaking at the right time and seemed incredibly efficient. I mean, Stockton threw 5 incompletions, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, and then they ran the ball for 128 yards.
Yeah, I just had to block somebody in the chat, so sorry. I was listening, but I'm gonna get in trouble for saying this. But we had a guy in the chat for saying he was not gonna watch us no more because we're hyping up a overrated program like Georgia. So I blocked that. Sorry, Eugene, in the chat for blocking you, but we're okay if you don't watch us. We'd rather have smart fans. That's the comment I'm going to get in trouble about. My wife's going to watch this, and Austin's going to scream at me, and maybe Adam. Anyway, man, I want.
Everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but sometimes fact-based opinions up.
Yeah, that's right. I want to push back on your buddy about Arch, man. Look, I thought he played okay, man. Like you said, you didn't get to watch a lot of that game, but and you said you watched first half, but to me, he did okay. He didn't have a lot of help. His receivers kept dropping passes. His offensive line, obviously, as we know, can't block. He has no run game. But I thought he did okay considering the circumstances around him. I still think he's gotten better and better as each week has gone on. And when I watched that Texas game, when I thought of the problems Texas had, he was like so far down the list.
He has. I think a lot of people are still caught up on the hype coming out of high school, the hype going into this season with what's your boy, Paul Feinbaum, talking about how he's the best quarterback in centuries or whatever he said. I don't remember what he said, the best prospect that he's ever seen, whatever incredible statement that he made about him. And I think people were expecting him to basically walk on water, and nobody's going to do that. I remember the same thing happening with, I think it was Ron Paulus at Notre Dame, Lee Corso, before he started his first game at Notre Dame, saying this guy could start on Sundays right now. And he hadn't even played a college game yet. And when you give somebody that kind of hype, there's nothing they can do but go down. When you give a team, not even players, teams, and anything, your expectations are that high that they're unrealistic. Calling a player the best prospect in the last 25 years or this century, whatever he said, there's no way you can live up to that. And is he playing great? No, but he's also not getting a lot of help. And Georgia had a lot to do with that. Georgia did not let the receivers get open. Georgia pressured him. Georgia shut down the run game and put a whole weight of the game on his shoulders.
Yeah, and I thought despite all that, he played okay. Like he wasn't, like I said, to me, he just wasn't the major issue. And I think next year Arch is going to be pretty good. But I don't know if he'll ever reach the expectations people put on that poor kid. I find myself rooting for Arch just because, and he doesn't need me to root for him. Look, he's going to be rich for the rest of his life, no matter what he does in football, because of who his family is. But I find myself rooting for the kid because I feel like, he didn't ask for this. He's not like out there, begging for all this. It's just the attention he got because of his last name, and I don't know.
I would agree with that a little bit too. I hope he's successful just for the fact that
I do too.
It doesn't matter how good he is, he's going to get dumped on.
It don't, yeah. No, it does not matter. And I thought he's handled it like a pro this year. Like he's handled it like a pro. But yeah. All right. And one of the wildest games that I did not think we were gonna recap at all, Sunday or today, Texas A&M 31, South Carolina 30. If you didn't watch this game, 30-3 at the half. South Carolina, Adam, what the hell? Did you get your eyes on this one at all?
A little bit, yeah. So I saw a little bit early, and I was surprised. I just was checking scores on my phone, and then that first window of games, because there's a bunch of good ones ending. We had Michigan Northwestern came down to a last-second field goal. You had A&M South Carolina. You had 3 or 4 games that all finished really good and exciting, and they all went off about 4 or 5 minutes after each other is when they finished. So I just went into my office and put them all on and just went from one to the next and watched the finish. I mean, the main one I had my eyes on was A&M South Carolina, and I'll be honest, I don't gamble much, but once I saw that got down to a 30-17 game or whatever it was, I went ahead and put some money on A&M with, I think, 4.5 points. I said, South Carolina's lost all momentum. So yeah. I didn't see the controversy at halftime. My buddy texted me and said Beamer outcoached him, was out thinking himself or out coaching himself or something, and screwed up right before halftime. Instead of taking points, he went for it on 4th down or something.
Oh, it's not even that for me. It's how Beamer acted like a complete ass.
He seems like a spoiled brat when he's on the sidelines, that's for sure.
And I hate doing this. But he acts exactly what people claim he is, a Nepo baby. It's absolutely ridiculous the way he was acting, man. Not even like the interview where he almost acted offended because, people were surprised that his 3-win team was beating the dog crap out of what is a top 5 team. And he was offended because, we beat these guys last year and and then he went into the half, dude. Have you seen the video? I'm sure you have. I think we went into half doing the whole acting just a complete fool going into the locker room. And,
I don't mind a coach doing that to their fans.
Yeah.
But I think it's very cheesy and poor optics to do it to the visiting fans. Do it to your own fans, get them hyped up, just ignore the visiting fans.
I agree.
Whether visiting fans are saying good things, which isn't going to happen very often, sometimes post-game, they'll say something post-game. Sometimes, hey, you guys had a great game, you had them prepared, whatever. Just ignore visiting fans. Ignore fans in general for the most part, but in a situation like that, hype up your own fans and leave it alone.
Yeah, I'm with you. It was just absolutely ridiculous. But anyway, to the game, that first half to me kind of showed the things I've been worried about Texas A&M. And I've said it a little bit here and there, and I would always get pushed back because, they're 10-0 or whatever they were at the time when I would say it, 9-0, 8-0, whatever. But I would mention to people in private or on TikTok or whatever about, Yeah.
You've said it on this show a couple times.
Yeah, I've said it on this show a couple of times. There was things that I was concerned about with Texas A&M as far as can this team win a national championship? And one of those was Reed, who I think has improved a lot this year. I just still don't think he's a finished product. He may be by next year. I think he has all the potential in the world. And the second half showed that because the first half he was absolutely horrible. I think he was 6 for 19. He had 2 turnovers. He was real antsy in the pocket, it felt like. He just wasn't playing good. And my whole take from that was, yeah, he bounced back in the second half. I mean, hell, he went 16 for 20, 298, 3 touchdowns, played like a Heisman winner right there. But my concern is if you play like that, if you have a first half like that in the playoffs against Ohio State or hell, even Indiana or Georgia or somebody, you may not bounce back. You might compete against South Carolina, but I don't know if you're going to do that against Ohio State or Oregon or whoever you might face in the playoffs. But at the end of the day, kudos to them. Mike Elko is an absolute stud. if there's any coach out there that could pull off a comeback like that, he would be the one I would pick that could pull it off. So I do give him a lot of credit for coming back. And at the end of the day, you win. That's all that matters. 10-0, and you keep on going.
Yeah, that's all that matters in that situation. And you talked about Reese's numbers flipping.
Yeah.
So did Sellers.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, Reed's numbers flipped. Sellers' numbers completely flipped from the first half to second half too, where that first half he finally looked like that top 10 first round draft pick NFL prospect that we heard all summer that we hadn't really seen this year from him. And then all of a sudden he came out this game in the first half and he seemed to be clicking on all cylinders. And I didn't get to see enough of the game to really see what A&M switched up on defense, or if South Carolina just fell apart or what happened. But man, I forget what he was at halftime. I think he was something like 14 for 18 or something, and then complete opposite in the second half. Couldn't complete a pass, it seemed like.
And I think some of it also some of it was the defense got a lot better. They were able to stop the run the second half. That was another thing about A&M. I know I've mentioned it, and I think you have
said that a ton. You pointed out the defense a ton.
Yeah, the inability to stop the run. They couldn't stop the run in the first half, and it just seemed like everything that I've been saying about the Aggies were finally catching up to them. And so I was prepared to come on the show going, because I've been getting a lot of flack about it on TikTok. Saying, hey, I told you. And then, of course, they come back and win. So this is not I told you so. It's just, hey, I just think that there is some concerns with this Aggie teams, and but they're still a good team. I mean, you don't go 10-0 in this league and not be good. I'll
say this. Every national championship team has a close call somewhere, needs some sort of late game heroics. Even your arguably best teams ever, 2019 LSU, very first game of the year, needed some long pass play. I think it was to Chase for the game-winning touchdown with about a minute and a half, 2 minutes left.
It was Georgia, either 22 or 21. Kentucky was like 13-12.
Yeah,
in score.
Yeah, I think it was.
I can't remember which
13-9 or something like that.
Yeah. It was one of those years. Yeah.
Yeah. It was I was up at that game. It was 22, I believe. And then you got Miami 01, who I personally think is the best team ever. They had the Ed Reed interception game where he stole the ball from his team. Or he didn't intercept it. He stole the ball from his teammate and returned that. I think that was against Boston College, Matt Ryan's Boston College team. No, that would have been before Matt Ryan. But maybe it was Virginia Tech. I don't remember, but that game they had to kind of, it was close to the end. So every national championship team is going to have a close game that's unexpected, and what makes them great is they find a way to win. So this might be that A&M game where it kind of resets them, let them know they can lose, and two, it also lets them face adversity early in the season, not early in the season, but early in a game and before the playoffs, to where how they're going to respond.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Let's go to Oklahoma 23, Bama 21. I didn't
see this one coming at all.
Yeah, I picked on our Sunday show. I picked Bama and Bama to cover. I thought Bama was going to win big. I'm not the biggest fan of post-game win expectancy, but my eyes matched what the post-game win expectancy said. And so for those that don't know what that is, it uses the game's final predictive stats like success rate, efficiency, and field position to estimate the percentage of times a team should have won that game. Adam, do you, unless you've seen it, do you want to guess what Oklahoma's post-game win expectancy was that game?
I have no idea, but just going by stats, it couldn't have been very good.
4%. Let me say this before I did go any further, because I don't want to hear it from Oklahoma fans when I clip this. You won the game. That's all that matters. Period. End of story. That's all that matters. You should not apologize. You should not feel bad. You should not care. You're 2 wins away from going to the playoffs after last year's disaster. Do not care. Especially don't care what some YouTubers about to say. Before y'all get mad at me. But yeah, man, it felt like when I watched that game, Alabama just, I wouldn't say it was a lucky win. What I'm saying is like it felt like Bama was the better team. It just had some freaking turnovers and Oklahoma. Listen to this. Oklahoma scoring drives. 23 yards field goal, 31 yards touchdown following a muffed punt, 41 yards field goal, 22 yards field goal after getting a turnover.
The 3-0 turnover is what the difference was in that game. They scored on all 3 of their turnovers, all 3 short fields that they had. That was the difference in the game, was them turning the ball. It was Alabama turning the ball over and Oklahoma forcing those 3 turnovers.
Yes.
So,
give Oklahoma credit for that. And I probably not sound like I am. Give them credit because those pressures probably is what helped them get those turnovers, making Ty Simpson freak out or panic in the pocket.
Because they completely got dominated in the stats, but that's not telling of the story of the game until you see turnovers. Yeah.
I tell you what, man, Bama better figure out this pass game. Because what was once a strength, this isn't just a 1-game thing either. This is the last 3 weeks. It's been pretty average, and
they threw for 326 yards.
Yeah, I know what the stats say, but when I was watching it, man, and I had talked to Austin about that too, our diehard Bama fan on the show, it didn't feel right. The pass game just did not feel right when you watched it live.
Yeah, and I didn't get to see any of this game. This was one that came on in the second half when I was at work and starting to break stuff down and then drive home and all that. So by the time I got home, it was just ending and I missed it, unfortunately. So I listened to a little bit of it on the radio as I was driving home and completely surprised. But it seemed like, from what I've heard and just some other analysts say, or hear analysts saying, because I'm not an analyst, but hearing what analysts say is that Ty Simpson did seem a little uncomfortable in the pocket, and I think that's a credit to Oklahoma's defense. And I don't know if that's what you're referring to when they got to figure the passing game out or what. Obviously, Simpson's got to make better decisions with the ball and protect the ball a little bit more. And then they haven't ran the ball well all year. Yeah, I feel like they're relying too much on the pass game.
Well, when I watched the LSU game, I think his completion percentage was like 55%. It was kind of off that night too. And I remember when we previewed this game, Austin kind of put that bug in my head that he started to get a little bit more concerned about the passing game. It had been kind of slipping the last couple of weeks. And that was just kind of they need to get it together, because I think they're going to beat Auburn, but I don't think that's if they're not going to be able to run the ball, which is obvious at this point. They're going to need that passing game. They're going to need Ty Simpson to play lights out. And if he's not, playing lights out like he had been earlier in the season, then we may go from Alabama winning the SEC to possibly being out with 3 losses. All right, let's. I don't want to actually recap this one too much because I just want to make a comment on this one. I didn't watch much of it unless Adam did. Ole Miss 34, Florida 24. Man, for a minute there, that almost got nasty for Lane Kiffin, because Florida was winning and it was not looking pretty for a second there. But Ole Miss pulls it off. Lacey, I think he had like 200 plus yards. Chambliss
huge game.
Yeah, huge game for him. I wanted to say this about this game. I can't say enough good things about the job Lane Kiffin's done. Completely ignore all the shenanigans about the coaching search. Just let's ignore that for a minute. I kind of want to give him his flowers, because I do feel like he's a guy that gets some unfair criticism on his coaching, because he's somebody that's easily hated by a lot of people. But coming in this year, if you looked at FanDuel, they were projected, or win total was 8.5. This was a team that lost its first round starting quarterback, lost 5 picks, NFL draft picks on the defensive side of the ball. They were 113th in returning production. And they were also, I think, the dead last in the SEC in returning production. So I think the majority of people's opinions was this was a step back, that they're going to take a step back. They did a little bit in the portal, but it was nothing like the portal class they did before. Then their quarterback, who was getting a lot of hype, Austin Simmons, get hurt. And they play a guy that, unless you're a diehard college football, you had no idea who Trinidad Chambliss was, coming from a D2 school, and has made him look really, really good. So I don't know. I just want to give my flowers to Lane Kiffin and the job he's done at Ole Miss this year. I could not, in my wildest dream, imagine this team being 10-1 when we talked about this in July.
I agree with pretty much everything you said. I will say, though, I feel like this might have been – Kiffin's done a great job all year. I don't want to take anything away from him. I feel like this game, Ole Miss, Florida, might have been one of his worst coached games because I felt like you had they're running the ball like crazy. You said Lacey, you had 224 yards. Chambliss had a great offensive game too, but I felt like they got down to the goal line a couple of times, and then they just stopped giving it to Lacey. And I feel like this game's not as close. If in the second quarter, and even maybe I think there was one drive in the third quarter, if they would have just handed the ball off to Lacey a few more times and they punched the ball in, because I know that they at least one time they turned it over on downs inside the 5. I feel like there was another time that they either turned it over or they kicked a field goal because they stopped running the ball and tried to get a little too cute with the play calling. And Lane Kiffin's never been one to be afraid to pull tricks out, but I feel like this was a game his team was better. And if he stomps on the throat early against Florida, they lose hope and give up. And I feel like he made some questionable calls instead of just running it down the throat that gave Florida hope, and that's what made the game close.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that, particularly on that game. All right, let's transition to Sweet Tea MVP. Before we do, please go hit the like, subscribe button on YouTube at CFB_SZN. Go follow us on Twitter at CFB_SZN. Go follow CFB Guy at CFB Guy, me at CFB Talk 07. And also give subscribe to the Weekly Walk On podcast on Spotify, iHeart, Amazon, Apple, all the good stuff that you can find your podcast. We appreciate everybody that supports. Please go do that for us. It helps our show. It grows the show. It gets us in the algorithm. So, yeah. All right. With that, let's go to Sweet Tea MVP. Adam, want to go first? You want to go first?
I'll go first. I'm going with Missouri safety, Marvin Burks Jr. He had 12 tackles, 5 solo tackles. He had a pick 6, but he returned 28 yards, and just kind of all around great defensive game for Missouri.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I'm going to go.
I have to give the defense some love, especially the safeties.
Yeah, I don't feel like I've given the defense enough love this year. And I'm going to be a little homer. I've probably done that a couple of times this year on MVPs. I'm going to go Kirby Smart's onside kick decision. That's my Sweet Tea MVP. I thought that was a genius call. Of course, if it didn't work, most people would call him stupid. I am one of those rare ones that if I like a call, whether it works or not, I don't change my mind. I stick with what I said, and I like the call. If it didn't work, I would have still liked it. Sometimes life's about risk, but yeah, that's my MVP. Kirby Smart's onside kick decision. All right, we're gonna kind of go as rapid fire as we can on my screen's messing up. There we go. We're gonna preview 3 games real quick. We're at 45 minutes. Let's go Oklahoma, Missouri. Adam, I'm seeing a lot of OU. I don't know how you feel. OU's locked to be in the playoffs since the Bama's game. And I'll be honest, with the way the offense plays, I don't think that's the case. I do think they could get beat in the next 2 games, one of the 2. With the way the offense plays, I think the margins of error is very slim. And when they're very slim like that, your defense, which it has been for the most part, has to play lights out for all 4 quarters and not have any slip ups. But with that said, I think OU is going to beat Missouri.
I think they will too. Missouri hasn't beaten a Power 5 team, I don't think, with a winning record all year, have they? I mean,
no, I don't think they have.
I know at one time Kansas was on the list, but I don't know if Kansas has a winning record anymore. So I think Missouri is a little bit of fool's gold, and their schedule is a little bit inflated because they beat South Carolina. We thought highly of them to start the season. They're not very good. Same with Auburn. They lost to any ranked team that they've played. I don't think Oklahoma is a lock to make the playoffs. If they win out, then yeah. I'm not convinced they're going to win out. I think they have a good chance to. But they still have to go out and play the games. They still have to go out and play the games, and they still have to win them, and with their offensive struggles, it does make me worry. They have a defense that's going to keep them in any game, but with their offensive struggles, they should win. But should and will are two different things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Missouri don't have the passing game. If you're going to beat Oklahoma, I think they have shown that there is a weakness on that defense. It's the secondary. The secondary is a weakness. The D-line and the linebackers are not. And they're able to get pressure quickly before you expose them on the secondary. But Ole Miss was able to expose them. And there was another, I think Tennessee, even though Tennessee lost, they exposed them in the secondary also with how many yards they were able to pass. Which is why I was surprised they lost to Bama. I mean, one against Bama. So, but I don't think Missouri has a passing game to beat them. So we're both going to go Oklahoma. All right, Adam. Give us the spiel. Kentucky versus Vandy. They're fighting for bowl eligibility. This team is on a little streak. You're Wildcat, man.
They are. They're finally starting to play a little bit better. They Cutter Bullies. I think they finally found a quarterback of the future. Obviously, he has to stay there, but a freshman out of Lexington. Finally starting to put things together. They're running the ball. Their defense has played decent all year. Played well enough for them to win a few games that they lost. They just couldn't score any points. And this is the Mark Stoops blueprint for him having successful seasons. An efficient quarterback, running the ball, taking time off the clock, and wearing the other team's defense out and keeping it a low, ugly score game. And they've been able to do that. I don't know if they're going to continue to be able to do that here for another week because I think Pavia is too dynamic for them. I don't think they're going to get to 4 wins in a row. I think Pavia is too dynamic, and he can win the game with his arm or his legs. Kentucky's going to have to do something to make him one-dimensional. I don't know if that's sit back in a zone and force Vandy to run and trust that their front four can get pressure without blitzing and can keep him in the pocket, and maybe they spy him, or if they go one-on-one and send man-to-man with center field and send pressure every time to try to pressure the crap out of them. I don't know what they need to do, but they need to do something to make them one-dimensional, and it might be try to hit them and get them rattled.
I don't usually pick up my mic unless I'm about to say something crazy. And our other co-host is watching us right now, so he knows what this means. Give me Kentucky, baby. Go Wildcats. I'm going to have faith in the Wildcats to keep the streak going. They are going to have the upset. They are beating Vandy. Vandy's playoff chances are over. It'll be done with. Kentucky's streak will go on. Mark Stoops will save his job. And, give me the Kentucky Wildcats.
I can
smile, Adam.
I can see Kentucky covering because it's 10 points. It's down to 9.5 now, but I don't know. Come on,
Adam, live a little.
I've had a lot of optimism the last 25 years of my life, only to see it come crashing down against Vandy multiple times when Kentucky was a better team. So, maybe it's going to flip flip the script here a little bit, because there's been I want to say even 3-4 years ago, it was the exact opposite places where Vandy was. I think it was a little bit earlier in the season, but Vandy probably wasn't going to make a bowl game. Kentucky's looking to get to 8 or 9 wins at the end of the year, and Vandy came and smacked him in the face. So maybe it's going to be a little role reversal here, and Kentucky can stomp on Vandy's season and knock them out of contention.
I'm going to be rooting for it.
I think Vandy's going to win a game that probably not as close as what the score says. I think Kentucky might score something late to make it kind of close and a backdoor cover type game. And I'm not good at gambling. I don't really gamble, so please don't take me on gambling advice. I see it being under 10 points. I don't see it being a double-digit game. I think it's going to be somewhere around a touchdown game.
Yeah.
But it's got to be low scoring and ugly for Kentucky to win. They can't get in a shootout with Vandy.
Got a question in the chat. Austin, Adam, will Mark Stoops be considered for any job openings this year, or did he miss his window of opportunity?
I think he missed his window of opportunity.
I think so too.
I think struggling to get bowl eligible after a disastrous last 2 years, I think he missed his window. I think they went 6-6 2 years ago and didn't make a bowl game last year. So, and if he finishes 7-5, 6-6 this year, they're not going to fire him. The buyout's around $50 million, and I think there's too many other openings. They're going to wait and try to make it to where the buyout's lower and there's less openings, so that they're not competing against higher profile programs. But I don't see him. He's not nearly as desirable as what he was unless he gets them to a bowl game this year and then turns it around and gets another 8-win season next year. That's the only way I see him being desirable next year. And I feel like a lot of fan bases turned on him after the whole Texas A&M thing, opposing fan bases.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. All right, Arkansas versus Texas. Last one we're going to preview tonight before we get off. This should be a get-right game for the offense because Arkansas's D is so bad. It's 122nd in defense success rate, 135th in quality drive rate. I'll be curious if the offense struggles for Texas, because it's struggled before against bad teams, bad defensive teams. But now Arkansas's defense is on another level of bad. I know people get tired of me saying look, this Arkansas team is not as bad as the record shows. This Arkansas team has a really elite offense, but the defense is just really bad. And I think this comments is perfect for what I'm about to bring up. We will almost win again, LOL. Listen to this. This is the losses, the margin of losses Arkansas has had this year. Ole Miss by 6, Memphis by 1, Tennessee by 3, Aggies by 3, Auburn by 9, State by 3, and LSU by 1. That is wild.
I think it's going to be a shootout.
I think
it's going to be a shootout. I think it will be, I don't know what the number is, 40-45. First one to 40-45, somewhere in that range, will win the game.
That would be awesome because Arkansas-Texas is a traditional rivalry that I think
old Southwest Conference.
Yeah, that I wish would get better. I know to Arkansas fans it's important, but more nationally, we don't talk about it much because it's just Arkansas kind of hasn't handled business. But yeah, I hope that's what it is. I keep saying I don't know if I can do this again. Screw it. You know what? We're close to Thanksgiving. Christmas is coming up. F it. Give me Arkansas. I'm going. They're so close. Like they're bound to get one of them. One of these has got to hit, right? I mean, they almost beat Ole Miss, who's going to go 11-1. They've almost beat the Aggies, who's going to go 12-0, maybe. Come on, they got to get one, right?
What does almost do for you, though?
You're right.
Outside of hand grenades and horseshoes, what does almost do for you? Insanity is doing the same thing over and over.
You're right.
And I do not want to pick Arkansas because they're not good. They have a good offense. They're not a good team. I'm not convinced Texas is a good team though either. I'm gonna lean Texas. I'm gonna lean Texas, but I feel like every time I feel like Texas should do something, they come out and drop an egg and just suck. But I have to lean Texas. I don't think it's I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any stretch of the imagination. I think it's going to be a shootout. First one to 45.
You know what? I think I don't feel confident.
And Arkansas loses another one-score game.
I don't feel confident in this pick. And I'm not just making this pick to be funny or to drive content or whatever. I do think it could happen. I do think another factor that's not been talked about yet by me or you is what damage has the Georgia game done to Texas. If I remember correctly, is this a noon game? I hate to put us on the spot. I didn't look. I think it's a noon game or 3:30.
2:30, yeah, 3:30 Eastern time, 2:30 my time.
Okay, so
Texas for the most part is out of the playoff. There's people thinking that they can get in if they went out because they'd have a win over A&M. Some other stuff has to happen. You have to have other people lose that would be ahead of them at that point. So I do think Texas will come out and play hard. I think they'll play well on the offense side of the ball because Arkansas's defense is bad. I cannot get myself to take Arkansas. Arkansas winning would not surprise me, but I cannot get myself to take Arkansas.
Screw it, my picks.
They don't know how to win close games, and they've proven that 7 times this year, 8 times, however many times it's been.
Yeah, that's fair to say too. I also we'll end it on this. I also think this weekend slate is not like great. Hey, it's college football. I'm not complaining. We only get 12 of these a year, so we never need to complain about the slate. But typically, when we do have one of these slates that are not great, we have some crazy stuff happen. And I'm calling it now. I think we get at least 2 in the SEC. I think Kentucky upsets Vandy. I think Arkansas upsets Texas. So, all right, man.
What about Mercer upsetting Auburn? I've heard some people picking that one.
Who? Mercer is legit. I'm 2
Mercer
hours
upsetting Auburn. I've heard people saying that one.
Yeah, Mercer is legit. Let's answer this question before we go and before we let Adam does his shirt and the outro and all that, because who D Unit has been in our chat this whole time and he's been engaging, and we really appreciate that. So I want to shout him out because I've been side-eyeing and seeing that he's commented on everything we've said. So let's answer this question for him since he asked. Adam, who would be the best fit for head coach at Arkansas? I have somebody in my mind. If you need me to say mine first, while you think.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
They may not like this because it's a G5. I'm just saying go hire Alex Golish. I understand he just lost, but you have a guy that has a really good offense that can put up a lot of points. You have a guy that has coached in the SEC before, so he's not coming in this blind. He was at Tennessee for several years or a couple of years. And yes, South Florida's kind of, gone down a little bit since the Florida win. But I think he's a really good coach. And I think the SEC experience, go hire Golish, go all in and bring him to Arkansas.
Golish was my first thought, but I don't know. I'll be honest. I'll tell you who I don't think it is. I don't think it's Petrino.
No,
I think they need to steer clear of him. Golish, and then also Rhett Lashley at SMU, but he just signed a contract extension, right?
Yeah, he did.
So I think he kind of took himself out of play, but I thought for the longest time it was hands down going to be him. I really like the Golish pick that you made, and I really don't know who else. I haven't had a good feeling outside of James Franklin to Virginia Tech and of what else would be a really good fit with a coach.
Yeah. I don't know. It just feels like Golish and Arkansas are just meant to be. I don't know why I feel that. I don't know if he's where he's from. Well, actually, he's from Russia, but where he was, where he lived before, after Russia. I don't know. He just seems like a fit there. He seems
I
like
got it right here. He was at Tennessee before South Florida. He was at UCF, Iowa State, Illinois, multiple positions, Toledo, Oklahoma State, Northern Illinois, and he was a student assistant at Ohio State and he went to high school in Ohio. Went to college at Ohio State, was a student assistant there, didn't play college ball.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't know. I don't know why. I'm actually kind of rooting for it. Arkansas is a team that I hope they get somebody good, and I hope they become like what an Ole Miss has become with Lane Kiffen. Don't tell me it's not possible, people, because I'm watching Ole Miss do things that I didn't watch them do when I was first getting into college football. I'm watching Indiana. I never thought I would say the words Indiana college football playoff. And here we are going on their second year. So if
Georgia Tech's got a potential entry to the playoff.
So don't tell me Arkansas can't do it. They can do it. They can do it. Just go make the right hire. And I think Alex Golish is it. So, all right. As always, we thank y'all for watching. I am going to let Adam close us out with the shirt of the week that he does. Pay attention, TikTok, listen to this, and doing our outro. I appreciate everybody.
This week I got Navy on. They had a huge win over South Florida. This past week, Alex Golish of South Florida had a great first half and then had to kind of struggle a little bit to stay above water and get the win because South Florida didn't give up. So Navy is the shirt this week. Every single week, I'm going to wear a higher education shirt, whether they have football or not. So if you have old shirts that you want to give to Goodwill and you want to see it on our program, or you just keep watching to see what shirt I wear because I might wear your school next. Anything that's upper higher education, I'll wear, and I don't care about size. So reach out to me on Twitter, CFB Guy, and we'll work that out. And then I'll either toss it if I've had to cut it into a V-neck or cut sleeves off to fit into it, or I'll take it to Goodwill for you. And just a fun thing to try to get fans engaged and have them tune in to see what shirt's going to be worn next. So this week was Navy with the midshipmen, and they are in a first place tie right now with a couple other teams, Tulane being one of them in the American. So that's going to be a fun battle to watch coming down towards the end. And I know you said you don't think it's going to be a great weekend of college football, but I don't have to work Saturday. So I'm going to have a blast on Saturday watching college football. So
I am too.
All right. Keep sipping that sweet tea and watching the SEC.
All right, guys. We'll check y'all out next week. Tell them bye.
Bye.